Well, very much today it's going to be more of a practical kind of message about actually how we engage with each other in relationships, because it's very easy at one level to get married, to turn up on the day, to stand before the preacher and to say the words. But what actually determines the strength and the nature of that relationship going forward is the way in which both people invest in it. And one of the key things to that is learning to, I guess, communicate with each other and to be able to share love with each other. And sadly today, there are a lot of couples that I see around in the community and the world who haven't learned how to do that. And they struggle in their relationships, or they accept a mediocreness at best, when in fact they could be experiencing so much more if they just invested a little bit more. In Proverbs 12:18 it says that reckless words pierce like a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. In other words, we've got to be careful with the way in which we communicate, because words are really powerful things. The old saying that sticks and stones will break my bones but names will never hurt me, is that true? No, it's not true, is it? We all know it's not true. We say it to kids to make them feel a little bit better at school, but it's absolutely not true at all. Words hurt. Words have a power to harm and damage us. And not just damage us in the moment, but often leave a lasting hurt that we carry with us throughout the rest of our lives. So this morning I want to talk about the whole issue of communication in marriage, or any relationship for that matter, the way in which we express love or communicate with each other by beginning to understand how each of us in a sense is made up. But I have to say that there are times when I struggle to understand women and how they communicate. I do. For example, I'm going to give you a very simple word, and that's the word fine. You know, for me it says something about the weather, but for women it's usually something else. Is that true? It is, isn't it?
You're in trouble if we say fine.
Yeah, that's right. Well, fine is usually a word used at the end of an argument in order to keep us poor males happy. Yeah, but fine.
No.
I'm in trouble already before we've even got it, you know. And they'll just keep on saying fine until we get the message, you know. Yes, Julian. You might have, you know, yeah, but they're much more subtle than that, Julian. Well, what about when a woman says 5 minutes? What they really mean is half an hour. But to be fair, that's the same as when guys say, yeah, I'm going to empty the kitchen tidy after the rugby game, you know. Just give me 5 minutes. It's not actually true, is it? But what about when a woman says nothing? Nothing, you know? It obviously doesn't mean nothing, does it? It's usually a sign that we've done something, we've become very aware at that point that we've done something we shouldn't have done, and nothing is used to describe the feeling that a woman has of wanting to turn you inside out. And at that point, then, what you should do is immediately admit your mistake. Immediately admit. You might not know what it is, but just admit it, okay? Nothing is also signifies an argument that will last 5 minutes and end with the word fine. What about, here's another one for you, this is a better one. What about the soft sigh of contentment? You know, it's not actually a word, but sometimes you hear from a woman just a, you know, she's contented, you know. And when you hear that, the thing you should do as a guy is freeze. Freeze. Don't do another thing. Don't move a muscle, don't breathe, don't do anything. And there's a good chance you might actually stay that way. And finally, there's the please do, you know, the expression. It's not really a statement, is it? It's an offer. A woman is giving you the chance to come up with whatever excuse or reason you may have had for doing whatever it is you've done. You've got a fair chance to tell the truth at that point. Please do, you know. Take it. Tell the truth. Deal with the issue. The consequences of not telling the truth or trying to avoid the thing that you've done are far, far worse. Just go through the pain of the moment and deal with it. And we could go on. And I'm sure if I invited women up here, you'd come up with an equally irritating list of male traits, couldn't you?
Yep.
I'm sure you could. I mean, just how long does it take guys to change the tap washer, fix that fence, or mend the roof, or do something else like that, you know? Yes, Julian.
Should we always be the ones to do it?
Yeah, well, God is going to answer that question for me. So, what are the secrets? What are the secrets to communication with your mate or your spouse? How do we most effectively share or express love to our spouses? And this morning I want to share with you what author Gary Chapman calls the 5 love languages. And it's really interesting because I went to find the book because there was a passage I wanted to quote out of it. I had 5 copies of this book, and I've lent them out over the years, and they're all gone. Not one of them has come back, which actually says something to me about how good a book it actually is. It is actually an excellent book, and if you've never read it, I strongly recommend that you find it and buy it and read it with your spouse if possible. Leave it lying around on the table maybe for them to read it. And what Gary Chapman says, or would argue, is that the reason we feel most unloved, or feel that love has faded from our relationships or marriage, is because we are communicating our love to each other in a foreign language. It's not that we're not showing love to our spouses, but we're doing so in a way that they don't actually understand. We're doing it in a language that they don't actually get. And so even though we think we're being loving towards our spouse, in fact we are, according to our own terms of reference, or our own language, they're not actually hearing us. They're not actually getting it. And so they actually, because they don't hear it or get it, they actually feel unloved. What we have to learn to do is to discover the language of love that our mate communicates in. What is their most important love language? And Gary says we've all got what he would call a primary love language, and there are 5, he would say. We've all got a primary love language, the way in which we best communicate and receive love. And if you are trying to love your spouse in a way that is not their primary love language, then chances are, no matter how hard you try, they are going to feel unloved. Consider Bob and Jolene. Jolene goes to the counsellor. She sits down with the counsellor and says, "Look, I've got a problem. I can't get my husband to paint the bedroom. I've been on to him for 9 months now trying to get him to paint the bedroom, and he just won't do it. I've tried everything, and he just won't do it." And the counsellor says, "Well, tell me more." Well, last Saturday was a good example. The weather was fine. It was perfect for painting. And you know what my husband did all day? He just washed and waxed the car. "And what did you do?" said the counsellor. "Well, I went out and I said, 'Bob, don't understand you. Today would have been a perfect day to paint the bedroom. Why don't you get inside and paint it? Why are you out here washing and waxing the car?' So did he paint the bedroom?" "No, and it's still not painted. I don't know what to do." "Let me ask a question," said the counsellor. "Are you opposed to clean and wax cars?" "No, but I want the bedroom painted." "Are you certain that your husband knows that you want the bedroom painted?" "Absolutely," she says. "I've been telling him for 9 months I want it done." "Let me ask you one more question," said the counsellor. "Does your husband ever do anything good?" "Yes," she said a little guardedly. "Well, I want you to do 2 things when you go home," said the counsellor. "Firstly, I want you to never ever mention painting the bedroom again, because I'm sure he knows by now. Number 2, I want you to give your husband a verbal compliment every time he does something good." Well, Jolene left the office that day, not really feeling like she got her money's worth. But 3 weeks later, she was on the phone back to the counsellor, sharing excitedly how her husband had spontaneously come in one day and started painting the bedroom. She was over the moon. But Jolene was wrong, wasn't she? Because her husband didn't just spontaneously come in and start painting the bedroom. Now, why wasn't he painting the bedroom, guys? Because he was feeling nagged, wasn't he? You know, he was just feeling nagged to paint the bedroom. And he didn't want to paint the bedroom because he would feel like he's giving in to her, you know? He was giving in. So he just kept putting it off and finding other things to do. The minute she stopped asking him to paint the bedroom, and actually started complimenting him for the things that he was doing well, he actually started to feel appreciated. He actually started to feel loved. And when a person starts to feel loved and appreciated, what genuinely happens is that they actually want to start loving and appreciating the source of that love back in return. And so Bob thinks to himself, "Oh, I wonder what I could do for Jolene. Oh, I know. She wants the bedroom painted." And so, because she's not nagging him to do it anymore, he goes inside and he paints the bedroom. And it would seem to me that Bob's primary love language is what we would call words of affirmation. What he needed most was to be told that he was doing a good job. He needed to feel that what he was doing was being noticed verbally, that he himself was being appreciated out loud by his spouse. And the point to note here is that when Bob began to feel loved, that's when he became motivated to to do something loving in return for Jolene. And it's the same with us. When we feel love, we are far more likely to want to return that love, which is why Jolene got her bedroom painted. And if we take the time to learn the primary love language of our spouses, rather than fading, the love in our relationships will actually start to blossom. Because at the heart of all human existence is this desire to be intimate and to be loved by another. So what are the 5 languages of love? Well, the first one is obviously those words of affirmation. Like Bob, some of us need to hear clearly that we are appreciated. Mark Twain once said, "I can live for 2 months on a good compliment." And it's true, isn't it? Maybe not 2 months, because that way you only get 6 a year. But you know, when someone says, "Hey, you've done a fantastic job, you know, you made an awesome mushroom soup last night, Nikki." Not that I got to have any, I was away, but I hear that you made a really good soup, you know. And when you hear that, you see it, don't you? You see the smile on the other person's face, and they feel good inside. And usually for the next day or two, they bask in that feeling of a sense of being appreciated for who they are and the things that they've done. And the best way to express, you know, words of affirmation are often through simple little things, little compliments, things like, "Hey, you look great tonight, honey." You know, if they've taken a few extra pains to you know, maybe get their hair done or wear some extra special clothes, there's a guy say to them, "Hey, you look really special." You know? And I find it fascinating. I mean, at the wedding when I arrived late last night at the reception, I mean, obviously everyone, you know, gets dressed up for the wedding. And I just noticed that a few of the women, including my wife, were all dressed up very nicely. So I just made a few comments to them. I said to Julie, Rosie McGrath, and I think to Joella, you know, they'd taken real special pains and they look really nice. So I just said, "Good girls, you look really nice, you know, you've dressed up really well." And you watch them smile because they feel good when they are noticed and complimented and appreciated. And it's the same with us. If your mate's primary love language is words of affirmation, you will be amazed at what happens when they begin to feel loved in their own language. Use words of encouragement. If they're good at something or have done a good job, then tell them. Don't just assume that they know. Don't just assume that they know. And it's so easy. It's so easy, isn't it? It just requires a few seconds of being able to notice and then say something. It really is so easy. But for other folks, it's not words of affirmation that are most important. For them to feel most loved, what they need is time. Men often make the mistake of thinking that by being a good provider, that by doing all the odd jobs around the home, that the wife will feel like, or know even, that she is loved. But for some wives and for some men, what they want most is actually the complete opposite. They want their spouses to stop being so busy. They want them to sit down on the couch with them. They want them to spend 15 minutes talking with them with the TV off and the newspaper out of sight. What they want from their spouse is quality time, undivided attention. They want you to look in their eyes when you talk with them. And I know that that's a hard one, because for Nikki, her love language is quality time. I know we used to go to, I thought it was McDonald's, but it was actually, it's McDonald's as well, but we used to go to Steamers for lunch too. And I thought, this is a good thing to do. I'll take my wife out for lunch on our day off. So we'd get to Steamers or McDonald's and we'd have the meal, but the first thing I would do is I'd grab the press and I'd grab it and I'd open it out on the table, and yeah, it's not a good look. It's fine, isn't it? It's fine, yeah. But you know, for some of us, and this is where it requires effort and work. For some of us, if that's not if our primary love language is not the one that our spouse has, it's actually hard for us. If your love language is not, and as mine isn't, is not quality time, it actually requires real effort on my part. I have to work hard at it to actually make it happen. And because it's not natural or innate within me, there is the tendency just to ignore it and not to do it, and just to love in the way that is your love language. But if you make the effort if you work at it, and if you create the environment in which it actually is easier to do, then in fact you actually start to reap the rewards. So for example, probably the best thing I should do with Nikki is we should go for a walk on the beach, because there's no newspaper there. Yes, she had a camera, yeah, that's right, quality time. Hello Nikki, click, 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 you know. Leave the camera in the car, go for a walk on the beach, no newspaper. And in fact then all we're doing is walking together, and we've got no choice in a sense but to begin talking with each other. And then we will start, or I will start to learn the habit of being able to converse with my wife, to be able to spend the time with her that she actually needs in order to feel love.
I don't actually mind the paper, and he doesn't mind the camera. We've just found this cool way of just being together. I don't think you actually always have to say words. It's not like you have to have a conversation. I don't actually mind if we go to McDonald's and he sits there quietly and reads his paper, and I'm sitting there and we maybe chat and stuff. And
Well, I hope that it's not because you've learned to just cope with what's
no, because I
less
think
than
you find
perfect.
this way of being together that's okay, and on our day off we'll try, if the weather's fine, go for a walk, and I take my camera and it's just being together. Yeah.
Well, that's true. It's the being together that's undistracted time. If the talking's a part of it, that's great as well. You know, I mean, here's another example of how this works. You know, some of us by nature tend to be analysts. I mean, here's a common situation. Your spouse may come home from work or something that they've been involved in, some community group, and they come home and they're really angry and frustrated by something that's happened, and they start to talk about it, you know, and they start to vent, blah, 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 and you start listening, and the first thing you want to do as a guy is to solve their problem, isn't it? You want to fix it for them. So you sort of cut them off before they finish, and you say, well, look, just do this, you know, and then they sort of go, ugh, fine, and walk away, you know, and then they walk away. And they come back a few days later and the same thing happens again. What you've missed out on is the fact is that your wife or spouse did not actually want you to solve the problem. What they wanted was just for you to vent. They wanted an opportunity to vent, to get it off their chest, to be able to express the frustration that they've just gone through with someone whom they love and trust, and for that person just to hear what they're saying, not to solve it for them, just to hear what they're saying and put an arm around their shoulder and say, can I make you a cup of tea or a coffee or something like that. Just to hear it. You don't actually have to solve it, which is a relief, isn't it, at one level? You don't actually have to solve it. The danger with this, and this occurred to me as I was driving in today, and I discovered this actually with the help of Jared, believe it or not. I went to see a movie a couple of days ago, or last week, called The Grey, and I hated the movie at one level, enjoyed it at one, but I hated it at the other because the guy's meant to be a survival expert, so to speak. He's an outdoors man, and he makes so many things you wouldn't do if you're in the situation where they've crashed in the snow sort of thing. But I was so frustrated. I wanted, with the guys who'd been watching the movie with me, who were driving home, I said, let's go to McDonald's and talk about the movie. I wanted to talk about it. But McDonald's was closed. So I had to go home. I wanted a vent. So what did I do? I got onto Facebook. And I typed into Facebook, just been to see this movie, blah, 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 kind of thing. And then a whole lot of other people got online and started responding to me. But I wanted to be able to express because there wasn't the opportunity to do it the way I wanted to do. And the danger with couples is this, is that if you don't listen to your spouse, if you don't give them that chance where you are the kind of like the sounding board for them, or the person they can actually vent with and feel safe getting it off their chest, they're going to do something like go to the internet, go to Facebook and start to share in that kind of environment. And I'll tell you what, there will be people out there who are not their friends, that will sometimes start to listen to them and give them the attention and the sympathy that they were looking from you but not getting. And sometimes that's where the seed of something that grows into something else can begin. So give. If it's quality time that is your spouse's primary love language, then give it to them. Give it to them. Make sure that they can come to you and just spend time with you, and where it's necessary to vent, to do that as well.